Newport News TV, now streaming online at nngov.com. Newport News in Review starts right now.
Hello, I'm Aaron Pritchett, and welcome to this edition of Newport News in Review for the month of October 2009. It's a time for tall tales, tempting tricks, and plenty of tantalizing treats. And as the cool autumn winds begin to blow across this great city, it has us looking back to the past and to a place that has served this community well over the last 80 years that it's been standing. So much so that we celebrate its anniversary and bring the show to you from the very historic West Avenue Library right here in downtown Newport News. This beautiful library, hidden well behind the trees along West Avenue, is a rare find in today's modernized, fast-paced, state-of-the-art society. But in Newport News, it's a treasure all its own, with a defining cupola, beautiful winding staircases, and a brick facade on the outside, a breathtaking, one-of-a-kind Captain Christopher Newport mural, and stunning architectural features on the inside. But even more important than the physical things is the simple fact that this library is deeply rooted in a community that knew early on what an asset it would be to them at the time and others well off into the future. But that's not to say it was an easy task, as its ever-growing collection traveled many city blocks as citizens struggled through the years to find it a permanent place to call home. In January 1891, along the very famous casino grounds on the banks of the James River, a group of young business leaders came together and formed the Subscription Library Association, which also marked the beginning of the Newport News library system. And as an increasing collection began to take shape, they found their home inside a real estate office inside the Silsby building at the corner of Washington Avenue and 27th Street. 2 years later, the ever-growing collection was moved up one block to the First National Bank building, where it would serve the Virginia Peninsula for the next decade. By 1903, the collection was on the move again and set up shop in the Young Men's Christian Association building on 32nd Street, but now under the reins of a new group, the Newport News Public Library Association, who began a concerted effort to reestablish the library and a public library building all its own. And as the library made many more moves that included everything from a cigar store to even a former bowling alley, their dream was finally realized as the Old Dominion Land Company donated land at the corner of West Avenue and 30th Street, thus enabling the city and its citizens to move forward with the construction of the first library in Newport News. And on October 14, 1929, 2 weeks before the stock market crash of 1929, the West Avenue Library opened their doors, marking the beginning of the first permanent public library building, and a place that would eventually come to include all races, all ages, and more importantly, set the tone for the future library system that we are so proud to have today. We are proud to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the West Avenue Library, and we encourage you to rediscover the past at this very traditional yet remarkable library that still continues to engage the mind and bring this community together after all of these years. Well, October has been another busy month, so let's take a look at what's been going on right here in the city of Newport News. It's more than just a job, it's an adventure. And when it comes to fighting fires and saving lives, training is a top priority, as fire recruits get up close and personal with the tools, the techniques, and the know-how that will prepare them for a career with the Newport News Fire Department. It's a fine time for festivals, from some amazing art and spectacular sculptures on the square to fascinating food, fun, and folk life in Newport News Park, as we look to carry on tradition, make plenty of memories, and enjoy the festive time of the beautiful fall season.
And I'm rolling 3, 2.
And it's good news for the city of Newport News, thanks to a little lights, camera, action, as city leaders sit down to tell the story of all the big economic announcements over the past year that will reach other cities across the country who are all ears in wanting to know the secret to our success. Everyone has a story to tell, but the bigger question is anyone listening? Well, in most cases they are, especially if it has anything to do with good news. And lucky for us, there's been plenty of good news coming from the city of Newport News. And now our city, its leaders, and businesses within our very own Oakland Industrial Park are about to get some nationwide exposure, thanks to a little lights, camera, action.
Look here, please. All right, and I'm rolling. Stand by. And question, please.
In general terms, describe the city's relationship with existing businesses. More specifically, describe your relationship with the city.
3, 2.
The city's been very instrumental in working with area businesses to help us grow and prosper.
We're up here today at the Breger Media Group, and this is part of a taping that we are doing. It's an opportunity to be nationally publicized on a program called the Economic Report that is hosted by Greg Gumbel and will show in 20 different regional locations, and it will be seen on CNN, Headlines News, and other major channels.
That's a take.
We were contacted by the Economic Report. They were very curious because of the success we had in 2008 with many of our announcements, our Cannon expansion, Continental consolidating their South Carolina plant here up in Newport News, and the Arriva joint venture between Arriva and Northrop Grumman. And so I got a call one day saying that they were interested to learn more about why we've been so successful when the national economy was distressed and stressed, and what was it that made Newport News be able to enjoy the success that we're having, and that they felt like that was a story that they wanted to have some national exposure with. What we tried to do for this message, we'll get a 5-minute segment, which is not very long, and we're trying to see this through the eyes of a local business that has just moved into this wonderful new facility in spring of 2008. In addition to those large major announcements, we had a number of companies expand up here in Oakland Industrial Park. Pensoft, Breger Media Group, and Muehlbauer located up here as well. So our approach on the story is to have this small business owner talk about Newport News being a good place for small existing business as well as these large projects that have thousands of jobs and hundreds of $millions in taxable investment. But that's what's important. Newport News is really does honor small business growth and tries to work with small business expansion equally as well as working on these large major projects.
You know, I've lived here my whole life, from elementary school up through high school, and came back to work with my father in the business. So it's a real dream come true to have our own building, our own business. We're adding on employees, we're growing, and in these tough times, it's good to have a good focus and really grow together. The City Development Office is a real key that I think a lot of people don't understand. They see money being spent and they say, why is this money being spent in these areas? But to help businesses grow and develop brings growth to the city in the sense of tax money and revenue that we pay as a business. It also gives jobs to people that are looking for work. So all in all, that development really helps the whole city grow and go to the next level.
You can never stop telling a good story, and you have to look at our success on many different fronts. And these projects, even working with the Breger Group, we were able to do a small business loan. They're in an enterprise zone, so they'll be able to get some state tax incentives. The numbers aren't as large, but it's commensurate with their capital investment. So it's a job at a time. You know, it's thousands of dollars of investment at a time. It's really staying in touch with our business community, large and small, and understanding what can Newport News do to help them be more successful, that we then also share in that benefit.
Okay, that's a take.
Is that okay?